Looks like it.
All right. Good evening. This is H&N, the Holotable News Network. Is you're not even remotely close to around the clock Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes news, reactions, reviews, theory crafting, and more source. I am CeliacSarah, one of your hosts, and I am joined, as usual, by my host, co-host, Pico Burrito.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Um, I want to get off the rails. I want to get off the rails already.
Oh man.
So can we nerd out for a second? Can
Yeah.
can we play like did you nerd
I,
for a moment?
I was gonna say, can we nerd out during this 2 hour
All right.
nerdy
I
podcast?
I've got to start with the question: does the CW exist in Canada?
Yes.
Okay. So like you're familiar with the concept of Felicity, right?
Yes.
Okay. Like I was worried, like, because I know y'all have your Degrassi thing, and that's very CW, and I didn't know if like maybe there was an army of Canadian Mounties like preventing the American CW content from getting over.
No,
So
we've got our Degrassi and Letterkenny and
yep. Oh,
and
absolutely.
CW.
Okay. So my mind was blown tonight. My wife and I got into it. We're talking about this. So Felicity,
Okay.
Terry Rhodes, our Zorii Bliss,
Mm-hmm.
she's on was in the movie because J.J. Abrams created Felicity.
Oh.
But and I knew that. Like I knew that, and Greg Grunfield, who played Rex, the kind of the heavy set X-wing pilot that's been like he was in it as well in the first episode because of that. Do you know who he co-created Felicity with?
Who?
Matt Reeves. Matt
Really?
Reeves, who created the new Batman recently and has done all of these huge action movies. So these two like action sci-fi kind of big budget movie things did this weird coming of age thing on the CW, and they created it. It was not like they were asked to run it.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote and created it, and now I just want to meet these two and not ask them any questions about the Batman or about Star Wars or any or of any of these other things. Like, how did this happen? Like, you guys clearly just decided like we should do this. Yeah.
So he was just like, yeah, I want you to come back. Or
It's yeah.
not
So
come back, but come
he
on board.
he's pulled them into a lot of different things, and this Greg Grunfeld, I guess they grew up together. I got into a Wikipedia hole on this last night because and we'll get into Zorii Bliss. I just needed to look at pictures of Kerry Rhodes' hair because it still just blows my mind from the '90s. That weird curly hair thing. But he brings a lot of people along with that from that side. But it was just it was yeah. And as Mole Pokey pointed out, she was Amy Jo Johnson, who was the original Pink Ranger, was in that show as well. So it's just but the whole J.J. Abrams things, Matt Reeves just blew my mind. Again, I wanted to get off the rails on this right away. It's so weird. Yeah, just can't wrap my head around it. So
I love it. Perfect. We're starting it off. We're starting off great. Oh man. Um cool. So, obviously we're going to get into Zori.
yeah,
That's basically the news, but do you want to go over H&N for good before
yes.
we jump into everything?
Yeah, so folks, H&M for Good, we announced this a couple of months ago. We're learning. We're going to talk about this at the beginning of the show instead of at the end. Hopefully, make sure we're catching people. But we are in our first official month of H&M for Good, and we're out there trying to raise some money. This month, we've decided that our charity that we're going to support is the Michael J. Fox Foundation for. And I can't believe I just drew
Parkinson's.
a Parkinson's disease. Thank you, as I drew a complete blank on that. We have currently raised $39. It's not a lot, but also that's $39 more than what we've done in the beginning. So I think this is a groundswell that we're going to continue to build on.
Mhm.
The plan is on the 31st of the month, we will pull the money out of Patreon. We will make our donation. And we need to start thinking about what we want to do at the end of February. So what we're going to do is tomorrow, I will be popping into Discord and I will be tagging the entire server because I think this is a case that tagging the server is good. We'll tag it. We'll get a room set up, and I want to start getting recommendations on kind of where we think is a good place to donate money to in the month of February. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of great ideas. I've got some suggestions, maybe theme based, but happy to start getting some folks' feedback. And again, we'll make sure that we're tagging folks and understand where those links are. We'll get the links to where the Patreon is set up as well. So again, very thankful for everyone that's taken the time out to go and put in a donation for this point. It's greatly appreciated, and understand it's awesome y'all are on the ground floor of something I think is going to be really great. So
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. It's gonna be fun.
yes, awesome.
Cool. So, do we want to talk about Zorii?
I think we should. I think we should.
Or as Lucius the Fox pointed out, and I can't believe I forgot this because this is a classic. Mr. Feeney's niece.
I did not know that.
I am
didn't.
like I can visualize her and Eric right now. Like it's in my brain. I can see the scene. Oh, oh man. Okay. Uh so Zorii Bliss looking like a Power Ranger, as everyone has pointed out multiple times. Have you read her kit?
So I did, and it's man, I'm not going to pick on it for being a book. I think there are better ways to describe some of the things that they're trying to do, and I get what they're picking at. So
okay,
it's much. Have you read it?
No, I was going to read it yesterday, and then I got lost in Meathead's Spice Girls puns.
Yeah,
and I was just like, all right.
I actually liked. I'll be honest. I thought the Spice Girl puns were great. I thought it was a cool, like, oh, if you were in on the joke, it made sense. But again, I'm of a certain age that the Spice Girls were a very, very important part of my life. So
you forgot two of them.
I know. Can I also, before we get into this, because I'm looking at the first image of Zorii, and she's got that weird thing coming out of the back of her helmet.
Yeah.
And I can only picture Carrie Rhodes' hair from 1996 shoved into the back of that, because it's the only thing they can do to get a helmet on her head.
Oh my goodness. Oh man.
Oh well. So you want me to read?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
Do you want to jump straight to the kit and skip all of this like inspiration?
Yeah, we'll skip some of the inspiration pieces. I guess my first question is: did this surprise you? Did it surprise you that this is the direction that they went?
I'm just I feel like they should have brought her out a while ago.
Yeah,
it feels like very odd timing.
Yes, I think so too.
I'm like, everything this year feels like odd timing. So I guess we're fitting with the theme of things. Yeah, it just feels. And now I'm like, what else are you gonna bring out from this time?
Yeah. Are we gonna get evil BB-8 for my evil droid squad?
Oh, you could have a full evil droid squad.
All right, so let's jump into Zorii Bliss, who is a light side support, resistance, scoundrel, and smuggler. It's a good time to be a scoundrel and a smuggler these days, is what it sounds like more than anything else.
They are the biggest faction in the game.
They are. And I think, as we'll talk about maybe a little bit around some character stuff today, starting to find some really weird, unique interactions with them, because we're not used to maybe using some of the scoundrel smugglers as scoundrel smugglers. So stealth empowers her abilities with additional effects, improves damages and bonuses when her squad triggers exposes. Newsflash: Finn squads trigger exposes. There's a lot of exposes in that case. Can bolster resistance tanks with max health and protection recovery. We will get into some of the questions, because there are actually some really good questions about her kit that I actually didn't think of when I went through this. So we'll see where this makes a little bit of sense.
Okay.
We're going to skip over the inspiration and some of the strategy stuff. And she is a marquee character. So the first ability is her basic, the twin E851 blasters. Final text: deal physical damage twice to target enemy. If Zorii is stealthed, this attack can't be evaded and dispel all buffs on target enemy. For each buff dispelled this way, resistance allies recover 10% health.
Nice.
So very cool. Very good. Special 1, Captain's Medallion of a cooldown of 4. Final text, dispel all debuffs on resistance allies. Always helpful.
Mm-hmm.
For each debuff dispelled, resistance allies gain 5% turn meter.
Mm-hmm.
Non-unaligned force user resistance tanks. So what did we agree that this was going to be called today? Was this the
Nerds.
The NERTs, the non-unaligned force user resistance tanks, or the NERTs, gain taunt or get taunt for 1 turn and protection up for 50% for 2 turns. Zorii gains stealth for 2 turns. Call all resistance allies to assist. So again, nice little ability there, although on a 4-turn cooldown. Special 2, I've done worse for a lot less. Again, a cooldown of 4. Final text, deal physical damage to target enemy. This attack deals 30% damage for each exposed triggered, stacking a max of 300% until this ability is used. If Zorii is stealthed, inflict healing immunity on target enemy for 2 turns. If target enemy is exposed, stun them for 1 turn. If this ability defeats an enemy, expose all enemies for 1 turn, which can't be resisted.
Holy.
So I heard you liked exposes in your exposes is what that comes down to.
Well, yeah, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, okay, so she's going to deal extra damage for the exposes.
Yep.
Triggered. So triggered as in that have been applied or that she's hitting on the target enemy?
I believe triggered is hitting on the target.
Okay.
Because an expose is applied as part of a debuff and it is triggered as part of an attack option or attack action. At least that's the way I think about it in my head.
That's how I'm thinking about it as well.
Yep.
But yeah, so she's going to trigger them and then be like, okay, you can have them back.
Yeah. Now, what I don't understand though is for each exposed triggered, stacking max 300% until this ability is used.
That's what I don't get either. So that makes me wonder if it's kind of like Kat's Xian, and every time, like, say you give it to Ahsoka, she attacks every turn, Kat gains more offense. So, like, maybe every time you pop and expose, without this ability, she's stacking more offense?
Yeah,
or damage, sorry.
I wonder if this doesn't. It'll be interesting to see if, like, maybe we get a blue buff associated with this one.
It's very, like, I just want to know what it is.
And if there was only a vehicle to ask CG these types of questions and get a response back for clarification.
If only.
But again, I think the other piece with this, again, if just thinking about all the exposes that are being triggered from that side, and every one of those triggers is going to give TM back to the team. It's going to take TM away from the enemy.
Yeah.
So unique 1, there's more of us, which is a Zeta and an Omicron. Final text, if ally and the leader is a non-unaligned force user resistance.
Okay.
So I'm from this point forward, I'm going to say if it's not Rey.
Yeah. That's not Rey.
That's what this is. So if the leader is not Rey, resistance allies have 100% potency while they have more allies than enemies, and 35 speed when they have equal or fewer allies than enemies.
Oh. Okay.
So in PvP, you start with plus 35 speed.
Yep.
You take something out and you get 100% potency.
Right.
On a team that's functionally built around potency, that's going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah. And then and in that case, you would drop the 35 speed.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter because you're triggering your turn meter train.
Yeah, absolutely. The train is on the tracks. It's moving at this point. Yeah. So whenever Zorii uses an ability while stealth, and the ally in the leader slot and so whenever she triggers stealth, the ally in the leader slot and Poe gain retribution for 1 turn. If Poe is taunting, he also gains crit hit immunity for 1 turn.
Okay.
Now, there's two things here. The leader is going to be a taunting tank in Finn,
Right.
likely. What they said in the Q&A is Poe is Poe. That's either OG Poe or new Poe will actually get retribution, which is why the clause is there around taunting, because only one of the two Poes taunts in that case.
Right.
So whenever a resistance ally has less than 100% turn meter and gains bonus turn meter, they gain 35% offense stacking for one turn. So hit and expose, everybody gets 35% offense up. Yeah. So it's great. It's damage will not be a problem. Whenever resistance ally without tenacity up gains tenacity up, all other resistance allies without tenacity up gain tenacity up for one turn.
Wait, what? Whenever a resistance ally without.
Yeah. So as
Okay.
long as someone gets tenacity up, the entire team gets tenacity up.
Okay.
Which I believe comes from Finn's kit when he does his cleanse
His
off of the
cleanse.
So days now doesn't become a problem on this team as well. So that becomes kind of one of the advantages there. Whenever a non-unaligned force user resistance tank taunts, they gain 15% max health for the rest of the encounter. And whenever taunt expires on them, they recover 15% protection. Okay. And then while in Grand Arena, and there are no Galactic Legend allies, and all allies are resistance.
Okay.
So you can use Jedi Training Ray, but not Ray. If the ally in the leader slot is non-unaligned force user resistance, whenever Zorii is stealth at the start of her turn, all enemies without expose are inflicted with expose for one turn, which can't be evaded or resisted.
Oh man, which is going to trigger more turn meter.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Man. Unique 2 Spice Runner skills, which is a Zeta as well. So 2 Zetas on her. Zorii gains stealth for 2 turns at the start of each encounter. Smuggler allies have 35% accuracy and health steal. Whenever an ally triggers an expose, all allies recover 5% protection. The first time each resistance or smuggler ally falls below 100% health, that ally gains 100% turn meter. If that ally was a non-tank, also gain protection up for 100% and stealth for 2 turns. If that ally was a tank, gain damage immunity and taunt for 1 turn instead. If this damage immunity or stealth is dispelled, all allies recover 100% protection. So they're gonna get a couple of turns without dying. Is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And then whenever Zorii uses an ability while stealth, smuggler allies gain buffs based on their roles. Attackers critical damage up, healers and support speed up, and tanks get critical hit immunity for 2 turns.
Man,
I don't see them really see her being with smugglers very often.
No. I'm sure someone will think of something wild to do with her there, but I don't see it. Man.
So, I mean, it's an interesting kit from the standpoint of, and they said they wanted to breathe a little bit of life back into the original, Finn resistance team. And all she's doing is just amplifying all the things that team does really well. It's almost like, let's not give Finn a rework,
right?
To kind of bring him in line with where we needs to be around his leadership. We're just going to put a character in that just kind of amplifies everything that his leadership really does.
Right, exactly. Which is fine by me.
Yes, absolutely. And again, there's a lot of words around, on our unique 1 around, resistance this, resistance that. I think it's a pretty straightforward kit. Do things to trigger exposes, shoot exposes, get turn meter, take another turn.
Right. It's not that. It's not that crazy, and I mean her unique is insane.
Yes.
Insanely long.
Yes, there's a lot there.
A lot of points. Yeah, and like Lion's is saying, you can't use JTR, but I don't see that as a problem.
No, I don't.
You run Finn, Poe, her, Zorii, and then Trooper and Pilot.
Yep.
There's
Yeah.
your exposed train and turn meter train.
Yeah. It actually kind of pulls the droids out of that as well, because R2 would slot into that team from time to time. 3PO would slot into that team from time to time. Honestly, and I ran this the last 2 days. I know people won't believe this, but a Relic 7 Zeta Rose does a ton of turn meters because of the way her special, or her first special, works. But she's going to come out of that team, and it's going to be Zorii that's going to slot into that, and Rose kind of goes back to the bench for a lot of people in
Right.
that case they're using it. But I think it's a solid kit. I think the more exciting thing for people, and this kind of gets into the Q&A, is it looks like we're going to get her ship as well.
Right. So let's look at the Q&A then, because
Yep.
Yeah, it does look like we're getting her ship.
Yeah.
Which is fine. We need more ships.
Yes, we do. And to that point, and I saw some conversation in a couple of Discord channels over the past couple of days around, well, we still need 2 more ships in the First Order. We need 2 more ships here. I think we all need to start coming to the realization that 5 ships is a complete ship squad.
Right.
The extra 2 slots, it's great if you can stick something there, but 5 is really what we should be targeting for a ship fleet, because we really don't get past 5 ships in battles anymore.
Yeah. And those 2 that you're adding in at the end, you're really just taking them for their reinforcement bonus if you need it in an emergency type situation. Yeah. So 5 would be good.
And a new resistance ship would put them at 5, which I think is kind of where the magic number sits. So we're going to skip over a lot of the joke questions, although I do love this one because I don't know if it was a joke or not. But will there be any Ben Solo synergy? Zorii synergy was built around lifting underused resistance characters. Ben Solo was designed to lift your galactic legend Rey or Rey Jedi training. As such, there is no intended synergy between these characters. With Zori's addition, you'll be pleased. You can build 2 squads, 1 around Zorii and 1 around Ben Solo.
Yeah.
Or at no point in any of the Star Wars movies has Zorii Bliss or Ben Solo even been aware either one of them existed, let alone interacted together on a screen.
Right.
There's no point in making that happen. So
and Ben is not resistance.
He's not resistance. He's just a guy.
He's just there. He's just there for Rey.
In fact, he's an unaligned Force user, so we want to stay away from that.
Right.
So again, I think this question is relevant. I'm interested in your take on this. Why isn't Babu Frick part of Zori's kit? And he is just not a character in Galaxies of Heroes.
Right. Yet.
Yeah.
Give me Babu Frick.
So we're gonna skip around here because I think these next 2 pieces, and this is one I missed. I did not pick on this, but when can we expect Zori's ship, the Comeuppance, to boost the Resistance fleet? When adding ships to the game, we consider every unit that has been seen piloting or acting as a crew on a ship.
Yeah,
that's a very telling comment, because I think, as you pointed out today, Zorii has a co-pilot.
Yeah, Babu Frick's in that ship when they come to the Battle of Exegol. Is that right?
Yeah.
He's there. He pops up.
That's exciting.
So maybe he's coming.
What if we get Babu Frick and evil C-3PO, like as a Chupio type thing?
Oh, which that would be interesting, because Dar in our guild was pointing out today, Babu Frick is going to be tiny to try and select.
Yeah.
So you could have him working on C-3PO.
Yeah.
Which is what I would do for one of his abilities, reset all droid cooldowns or something.
Yeah.
But man.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to make him a little bit bigger. How do you make him? Because I'm having problems with both GMY and Hermit Yoda on a couple of teams that I use right now, and they're, I think, much bigger than Babu Frick from that side. Right. So
Well, and Molpoki pointed out today too that her crystal, she's got a ton of packs coming up, and her usual, like, I think it was the usual marquee one he was talking about. So maybe he can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, it runs or is available for a shorter period of time than usual.
Interesting.
Right? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, so are you ending it early because something else is coming?
Or are they going to move to 2 weeks and they're just not telling us, or something to a shorter period of time? They're just not telling us. So,
Right.
um, so this, and we talked about this in the kit, and I think this is an interesting one. In Zori's first unique, it's calling out Poe Dameron
Mm-hmm.
or any Poe, regular or resistance. And then there was another comment. Zori's first unique mentioned synergy with Poe. Is it a specific version? It's any Poe, so it works in either or. Although I'm really not sure why you'd use Resistance Hero Poe in that case.
No.
And this is, again, I think this is a really important piece to point out as well. So Zori's unique gives resistance tanks a bonus to max health when they taunt.
Mm-hmm.
Does this apply to all taunts, even those applied by other characters, such as Zori's first special, because she gives taunt to other characters as part of that, or Wat Tambor's Bactoid Shield Generator, or only taunt abilities used by the tank themselves?
Mm-hmm.
And it says any tank will, or any taunt will work, even those applied by other characters. So the pieces of her unique, if you were to have Wat as part of the team, that would actually count for that side.
Which is wild.
It is, but where I think that's really important is on Finn's first special.
Yeah.
And I forget what that ability is called, the one that they brought in, but part of that is I think it's inspiration. It's not inspiration, but it's something to that effect. When there's a trigger action to cause taunt to come into effect.
Mm-hmm.
So that should trigger the unique when Finn automatically turns taunt up on himself as part of that.
Right. You think
So
so?
yeah,
I'm gonna have to refresh this kit.
I looked through it today, and there was pieces of them like because it's the, you put the taunt up when their debuffs on, and then you do the shoot, and that's all that you really kind of do for the whole thing. That's Finn's kit in a nutshell. So
right.
So interesting character. Let me. Do you think this is another one of CG's fill in the gap characters, or do you think that this is a trend that we're going to see? Like, we're going to get a couple of characters in this era.
Well, that's what I'm curious about, because there are other characters you could pull from this easily,
Sure.
and her ship as well, which they seem to be really hinting at. But then I'm also like, we have the Return of the Jedi. I think it's Return of the Jedi anniversary coming up. So where are they going? I feel like whenever we think we're getting a filler character, they end up being useful anyway.
Yeah.
Even if it is like a one-off filler.
So there's two thoughts of them. First is, my immediate reaction was, are we seeing CG now start to take the characters that are in game but not available and move them to available? Like, is this the first step that we'll see for Scout Trooper or the Purge Trooper,
right,
or Crosshair,
mm-hmm.
and those types of characters to round these things out? That was the first. The second, and I don't, again, interested kind of your thoughts on usage. I think she's going to be phenomenal in territory battles.
Yep.
Because finding that OG Finn Omni is starting to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about PvP. The PvP game modes.
I don't know. Like I don't know what you would do with this team that you're not already doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're not going to take down Gas. You're not going to take down the Jedi Knight Luke, Jedi Knight Revan.
Yep.
You know? So I could 100% see it be more PvE focused, which is interesting because her Omicron is GAC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think what's interesting about it is if you look at the teams that CG has propped back up, the way they're working is that they have to be very, very fast, and they're kind of all turn meter trains.
Yeah.
Like there's just zero way to put survivability back on those old characters. So I didn't look to see how fast she is, but it is a case that she can just get them that first turn off, and she can kind of turn over a bunch of turns from that side, which again now becomes a big mod dependent conversation. But if they can't go first, it's just not going to happen. And I don't see people going through and modding, Poe and Finn to get enough speed on them to go first, or scenarios that at least in like maybe the K1 and the K2, you need really fast characters to guarantee that you're going to go first.
Right, exactly.
So,
and I don't know how you speed them up without pulling droids onto the team.
Yep.
But then you need to pull BB-8 to get like the turn meter bonus, and I don't think you want to do that.
Yeah.
So,
and I do think that Mole Pokey makes a great point. And he said it feels like that she'll be early, or she'll be good in mid game, but not late game.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair point, because if you're going for Rey, it does allow you to take a lot of those characters that you need for Rey, where you're probably doing that in mid game in a lot of cases, or earlier mid game. And maybe you slide her in, and you've now got two teams kind of built out of that Rey squad, as opposed to just one from that side. So,
yeah, and you can make use of them elsewhere. I wonder if she would be good, if that would make like a interesting, like raid team as well. No, I mean, I don't think it would for Challenge Pit, but
it'd be interesting, because wasn't the reason why they changed Finn was because of what he was doing in H-Sith, like phase 3, if I remember correctly. Thought there was maybe like a Finn comp that if you could get it into phase 3, you could do phase 3, you could bridge 3 to 4, and kind of burn through everything from that side. So,
yeah, I don't know, but I'm not mad that we're getting more characters.
No, I'm not either. Excited for another ship too. So
yeah, and I mean, I think you and I have said this several times, and have kind of been like beating this, particularly when it comes to territory battles, is there's going to be characters coming that will be useful, that aren't in platoons, that are going to change how things progress. So I think this is just the start of that.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is you said it, because we were talking before the show, we had a slight range trooper problem today, that, well, we only needed 2 of them in platoons. There are a couple people that had Finn Omnis, and of course they were the ones that had, that character up. So maybe this is a case that if we pull Resistance Trooper out, which was really the backbone and the damage dealer of that team.
Yeah.
What does it look like if you pull the Resistance Trooper out, and can she slot in and fill a lot of that same role, because she's generating a bunch of exposes? Because that's really what Resistance Trooper does, is at its special is when it hits, it also exposes.
Yeah.
So if she can generate a lot of those herself, maybe that's that's how we kind of get around some of that as well, and just provides a little bit of territory battle flexibility.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. You keep going from there.
Yep.
Cool. So I think that's it for Zorii. And then we just got a content update today.
Yep.
Which is not that exciting.
Very light on details in there as well.
Yeah. I mean, Iden is accelerated if you don't have her done. Zorii's marquee is coming. Sana is not yet farmable, which everyone was kind of hoping would be today. But a lot of people have pointed out that she went to shipments earlier than the murder bots did, which was probably because of the Christmas holidays and stuff.
Yep.
So she's probably still relatively on target time-wise for how long it's been from the marquee before she actually becomes farmable.
And we know that we're going to get some level of content update next week because they have
Yes.
to bring in the new Conquest character
Yes.
for before Monday, a week from Monday. So
Yes.
we'll see something next week.
Yeah, we will. And then they also posted a nice little like line at the bottom. The next
Yeah,
update will have pending Territory Battle 3 fixes due to there being no TB running at the time of the fix.
yeah,
I will say, I read this, and this is just a case of like how you can read the English language multiple ways. I read this as like them saying right now there is no territory battle happening, so they can't make any changes because there's nothing for them
yeah,
to verify. And I was like, what? And then I clued in. They don't want to do it during
yeah.
territory battles, which is how it should be phrased. But whatever, semantics.
So have you been burned by the IPD bug?
I've had it. It hasn't burned me.
I had 5 of them come at me in a row with their nuke move.
Oh, they kept nuking you.
They kept it one after another. They took 5 turns in a row and nuked me, and it was just like, come on.
I'm wondering
And
if
I lost my way because of it.
okay, so this is going to be actually a really great transition that you brought this up
Yeah,
because Sith Dryden was asking in chat just now what we think the bug fixes are going to be for territory
yep,
battles, and whether or not they're going to touch the Reva mission. So this IPD thing, it has to be fixed first of all.
yeah,
Like they really need to address it, but it's not a territory battle bug because this happens in Conquest. So on the Sector
yeah.
4 mini boss, there is the summoned IPD, and you can get the exact same bug there where multiple IPDs will summon. Because everyone was like, oh, this is happening. I'm like, this happens in Conquest because that's where I first noticed it.
Yeah.
And you can see it. I noticed it at first because I was doing a battle in Conquest. I don't even remember which one it was, but it doesn't matter. And you can see the like health bar flicker go like back. So if you're hitting
Yeah.
one and then the other one is taking its turn, but then it goes back to it's wild. And I was like, there's 2 here.
That's I
Or more than 2, however many. In your case, 5.
they acknowledged that before Christmas, correct?
Man, they have to have.
I thought they said that they saw it, but it was just like, look, we just don't have time to get it fixed. So
So they have to fix that because the problem is if you have multiple there and multiple are taunting, you can't
yes.
get around.
Yeah.
Like it's just irritating.
Yeah.
I haven't had it burn me specifically. I have been extremely frustrated with it.
So it got me. I lost Jedi Master Luke.
Oh God.
But I had Jolie there, and then they sent the explosion bots one after another, and Jolie was the only Jedi that didn't make it past that.
Yeah.
And it was over at that point. So
oh man. Yeah, they need to fix that. They need to fix the Patron bug. So if you go into territory battles from the shortcut on the home screen,
yep.
Anything that you look at in game in territory battles in terms of like who's deployed, who's done combat missions, like the guild list, it's all voided out and just says Patron. Yep. And if you look in the platoons, it doesnn't tell you who platooned what.
Yeah.
They're just filled in as if they've been platooned. But if you go to territory battles from the guild's homepage screen, it doesn't have that bug.
But I think at least the name bug today, I hit it. I went back to the main screen,
mm-hmm.
and then I went back in through the right-hand side button, and it was resolved.
Was it?
So it almost feels like if you go in, the first time you go in, you've got a null data set or whatever it is, and then the second time you go back, everything's populated from that side.
Okay.
And it's a minor functional bug. Planning for officers, I think it's a bigger impact of trying to understand where everyone is from that side.
Right.
I think the IPD bug's a big one.
Yes.
We need to understand what's going on with the site mission. I
Yeah.
think it's bugged. I think those are that stuff is bugged. So um,
Um, yeah, that scythe mission is, I mean, both that one and Geo. I think the thing to me is, um, I can acknowledge, I can see the frustration, and I 100% in the frustrated camp with this, because you spend 3 months working on Conquest to get the
yeah,
character unlocked in the shortest amount of time possible. You uh get Grand Inquisitor because you need it to even
yeah,
unlock the ship, right? Like, you can't otherwise, just it's sitting in your roster, you can't use it, and then you just get blown up out of the gate. And I can
yeah,
acknowledge CG not necessarily wanting to give us the solution to the puzzle right away, especially for something like territory battles where they want to future proof it and make it so that you want to have content for the next 2-3 years, however many years, and release things that make it easier. However, I should not have hard targeting on my scythe right out of the gate that I can't even try to get to my first reinforcement.
yeah.
Like, I can understand it maybe not being the only puzzle piece that we need and being like, oh, okay, like I got halfway through and it looked okay, but there's still something missing. That I could be more on board with. The straight up like utter destruction, I'm like,
Well,
it's just a bad taste.
and it's sector one. Like
Yeah.
that's part of the problem is as well, and I hope it's bugged because I hope that someone didn't sit there and say we've had people waiting 3 months to get this thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to unlock it. The first thing that we're going to give them is an opportunity to use it in a mission, and literally they're never going to get a turn.
Right.
And it's a lot of people are walking into this with relic 8
Mm-hmm.
pilots, so it's overbuilt for what the requirement is for stepping into the zone. To your point, it is a hard target with malice at the
Yeah.
scythe to make that go down. So
And I was having this conversation earlier, and I I was saying, I was like, okay, what can I change in my lineup? Because I want to take
yeah,
Executrix. I've tried it with Executrix and I've tried it with Executor, because I've
yeah,
seen both people try, or both ways tried, I should say. Um, and then what can I take with it? Should I make it the reinforcement? Like, what
yeah,
what is the deal? And then I was like, okay, well, you want to bring in some, and I took in, so for clarity's sake, I took in Scythe, Imperial Bomber, and
yeah,
Imperial TIE Fighter were my starting three. And then today, when I was going to do the mission again on Geonosis, which is a whole other bag of worms, but I was like, okay, maybe I should take Houndstooth instead of Imperial Bomber, because I'm gonna fail the Executor mission because I platooned my Razor Crest,
yeah,
because whatever, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so I was like, I'll probably fail that, so maybe I take my Houndstooth here. And then I was like, it doesn't actually matter, because no one taunts,
yeah,
not a single ship taunts that you could take to protect your scythe, unless they get a turn to create an action to make them
yeah.
taunt. And they don't get to take a turn because they hard target your scythe right away out of the
Yeah.
gate, and your scythe is gone.
Well, and again, surprised to see this. The Scythe is by far the slowest ship in the game. Period. End of statement. I mean, it is slower than the Hux the Hux shuttle. So even though there's some survivability built into the Scythe kit, you're just never going to get a turn. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's everybody's going to go before that. So um, I we'll see where it lands. It's funny as you were saying that there is not we don't have a ship in the game with a pre-taunt, do we?
No, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, there is not a single ship that pre-taunts. They
Clone
have,
Sergeant doesn't pre-taunt.
maybe, but you can't use them on dark side.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, it it is I can't think of a single one. There are ships that will do it, but it's part of their reinforcement ability. So like Boba, for example. Um, so yeah, you need that. Voxen, I totally agree. You could take a weak ship, but in the case of territory battles, that's not going to work.
You can't take them. Yeah. So
Like,
Voxy made a comment that Skeltrix put a couple of videos out around ways around it, and I joked in our show notes. I watched Skeltrix video, and I think he said he was like 12 times in a row he ran the scythe against profundity counter, and it worked.
mm-hmm.
Every time. I ran it 10 times in the last 2 days, and I never got a turn with my scythe
Right.
in any of the 10 times. And again, RNG is RNG, and I know people are having success. So I think that I'm the outlier on it, which means I'm gonna be right from that. And I think in PvP, it's a off meta counter to the meta ship, and I'm okay with it with how it's functioning in PvP. Like I'm okay with that. It just seems short-sighted in territory battles.
It does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just it feels, and then I'm like, okay, well maybe we get a different capital ship. I'm like, but Scythe calls
Yeah.
out specifically Executrix in its kit. So what's a different capital ship gonna do?
And what's funny about it also is, so if we look at the mandatory kind of characters in the territory battle so far, the Java team,
Mm-hmm.
Rex face.
Yeah.
The Afra team, Rex face.
Mm-hmm.
Inquisitors, Rex face. And then the Scythe maybe gets out of the hangar.
Right.
So it feels like something's off. Like that's the I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out from there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So we'll see. In terms of other fixes, Sithnar was specifically mentioning the Reva mission. I don't think they can touch the Reva mission. I think now you've had 3 runs of it working how it is. To change it now, like I think if they were going to address it, they needed to address it right away. Or even if they weren't going to fix it, they needed to put a post out right away, acknowledging it. And then the other thing is, I don't know if you have seen this or not. I think you might have. I think I might have sent you the link. Or I at least posted it in our like strategy chat, but for territory battles. Barbarossa ran the Reva mission with, I think he has like an emulator where he can tweak the enemy kits, etc. And he essentially turned Scavenger's Unique on to how it is supposed to be functioning, and it's not functioning that way right now. It makes the mission look impossible. He turned it on, and all of the Inquisitors had anywhere between 10 and 15 thermals.
Yeah.
Before the first wave was over, 3 of them were dead, and the 2 that were standing, which included Ninth Sister and one of the other ones, not GI, were already in the yellow heading into wave 2. So you're essentially screwed. You have no cleanse.
Yep.
And more than half of your health gone, all of your protection gone. So I don't see how they can touch that mission.
I don't think they want to.
I don't think they want to either.
Look, let's put Cam to the side because he's the outlier. The Cam mission is of the 4 characters, well, now 5 characters that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
The Cam mission is the outlier in this case. All of the others, they want you to put time and energy into a character. They want you to build a team. Mm-hmm. They want you to remod, understand the mechanics, and then push forward on the mission and be successful.
Right.
I mean, there was, if you look at Watt, yes, a lot of us auto it now, or autoing it at the end, but there was a very specific set of things that you needed to do in that case. You had to have your team fast enough so that you got around the refresh of the ability that pulled the block off of, or the special extra damage little buff that went on the Accolade, like you had to race him around to that so that your refresh was off to make it go away. But there were some mechanics you had to know. There was some you needed to hit some kind of minimum thresholds. We have that in the Reva mission. Look, they want people to go get Grand Inquisitor,
Yep.
so they're having to do that. They're having to put all of the relics on that team to make that happen. They're making you put an investment in those characters around some mods, and you have to understand the piece. And there's a failure rate, but it's an acceptable failure rate. It's 5%. It's 10% of, I think we were at about 5 or 10% failure rate, which again, I don't think that's bad. Like I think that so,
and
I think they want people to get this character in their hands.
there are guilds that are having 100% success rate by streaming.
Yeah.
And like I was streaming it earlier, and it is considerably smoother than Cam. And it was a case of like where they're like, okay, like I can target engineer, for example.
Yeah.
And it was Grand Inquisitor's turn. And I was like, you know what? What we should actually do here is Nebbit has 4 stacks of Purge. Basic him, because then you'll get to do your bonus attack.
Yeah.
You'll get to 6 stacks, which means Grand Inquisitor will gain 100% turn meter and get to take another turn. He'll have 6 stacks. We can throw Torture on him. You'll get all of the buffs, and it just makes it. And it's little things like that where like you just have like the extra set of eyes, and you're like, actually just hit this person instead, and it makes it so much smoother. And then and these guilds are going 100. They're going 50 for 50, which my exact words today were, this makes me think, if you're going 50 for 50, you're unlocking this character in 3.5 months, which means it's essentially like a conquest unit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without doing all the grinding, all the feats.
Yeah.
You're doing the battle itself takes 5 minutes at the absolute most, and that is an off battle. I think the majority of them that I've seen and done have taken 2 or 3 minutes.
And by the way, that was how long we needed to spend on Rolo. That was how long that we needed to spend on IPD. That was how long we needed to spend on Watt. It's the same. That's why, again, I know Cam is fresh in everyone's mind because that was a ton of effort from that side. But let's treat that as the outlier until we see otherwise. So I'll be honest. If I was a developer and I built a really awesome character, and then no one could use it for 6 to 9 months, I wouldn't be happy. Like I'd be actually having a problem with kind of organizationally what was going. Because again, and I know it's, well, CG wants your money. There's literally no money you can throw at Cam to solve that problem.
No.
If you were to put the problem that you're talking about, if you were to take all of those characters up to Relic 9, that doesn't solve the problem.
There was
money
someone,
doesn't solve it.
There was someone in our guild who had a full Relic 8 squad for Cam, and they failed.
Yeah. I have an all Relic 8 squad with some Relic 9s on there, and I almost failed as well because I didn't have the turn meters. I didn't have the turn order correct because I'm like, well, I thought I knew what I was doing, and actually I beat it, but it was one of those like, okay, so now I'm going to actually go do what everyone asked, and I'm going to put the correct turn order in place, and honestly, I'm now seeing better experience out of them in PvP as well by changing up the turn order that way. So I think it makes sense in the longer term, but I don't expect them to touch that mission.
No, I don't think they will either. I think it will be the Patreon bug. And I expect also some of these fixes maybe will be the fact that Meathead. Yes, Meathead. I realize that we all call him different things. Like, am I saying his proper name? Meathead put out a post asking for territory battle feedback from the community. And I'm hoping that some of these fixes will also include that feedback. So for transparency's sake, I gave my feedback. I included the Scythe mission and how we felt about it and echoing it. I also included the fact that the dark side planets just seem to be more tuned heavier, like tuned harder than the mixed and light zone planets of the same phase.
See, I disagree.
Oh, really?
I saw you put that. I think that the light side missions are harder. In particular, I think the Braca missions are harder because they go on longer, and the longer that the mission takes, the more opportunity is for something not to go right.
Oh, so
Like,
I've dropped more waves on the dark side than I have on the light side.
yeah, I'm the exact opposite. I have done offers on the light side where I've yet to do an offer on the dark side. So
Man.
in fact, I think the only waves that I've dropped in the 3 times we've done this are anytime that I take Slicker because he's terrible in territory battles and I hate him and I want him to go away
Oh,
forever.
Slicker's been a 2 for 2 for me every single
Yeah.
time.
Next to he's been great, but I've struggled with him. I've just always had that problem. So,
Oh man.
um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think it's going to be interesting. Hopefully they're factoring in just what people are saying though. I also
yeah,
did point out, and I pointed this out to Crumb when he did his stream before Territory Battles went live. He was streaming the Territory Battle like on the test account that he had
yeah,
access to. And I pointed it out to him and he did not believe me. And I was like, you have Fifth Brother in Tatooine,
yeah,
Operation 1, and you have Seventh Sister in Dathomir, Operation 5. And you need them for the Reva mission, and they should
yeah,
not be in platoons. So I'm hoping they will fix that and replace them with somebody else.
yeah,
Um, and I put that in my feedback post, and I said, I was like, I get it that it's not, you're not asking for multiples. It's literally just those two once. So it's two individual
yeah,
characters. However, in my opinion, both of those characters are vital to the mission.
yeah.
I would feel slightly different about it if it was Second Sister and Eighth Brother, since those seem to be the
Because
interchangeable ones.
yeah, you can swap those two around.
But I even pointed out, I was like, for the cam mission in Phase 3 of Lightside Geo, you needed Shock and Clone Troopers. Those were the ones you could use, and then you eventually added Bad Batch to the
Yeah,
grouping as well. Out of all of those characters, even if you don't have Bad Batch in there, Shock and Clone Troopers, Cody and Clone Sarge were listed as available characters that you could take into the
yeah.
mission if you had them at the GP requirements. Not a single one of them was in platoons.
You can take that all the way back to even like phase 1 in Lightside Territory Battle with the Geo mission that was, or the Galactic Republic mission that was there, all the way through Lightside Territory Battles, like where the Anakin and Snips mission was, they were not needed in any of the platoons
Yeah.
on that day. And but to that point, and interesting is one, they didn't even fix that, but so yesterday was the first time that we entered phase 2 in step with territory battles.
Right, with like being
So
at Phase 2. Yeah.
yeah, so we did and I found it to be infinitely easier because of the way the missions were aligned, that we weren't kind of out of step with where some of those pieces were. So I found it much easier to align teams to be successful on that. So like the Tatooine, I'm sorry, it's not, what's light or mid on day 2? Is that
Felucia.
Felucia? So Felucia, the upper left hand mission, is one that I've always struggled on, but because of the way everything lined up, I could take Vader over to that one and was able to be successful at it from that side because
Right.
I wasn't using Vader on something I needed from the previous mission. So I think some of that will make things easier, but you shouldn't cripple someone's ability to do a special mission, a shard mission, something similar to that point. And I think they need to address it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Go back. So, JD, there are no suggested teams yet that I know of that don't use any platoon tunes because there are only, as of right now, 3 characters that are not in platoons.
yeah,
I mean, I can filter through it, but everyone's been platooning everything,
yeah.
unfortunately. They're all there.
Everyone in the game is in a platoon by some way, shape, or form. But again, and I think we talked about it the first week that we did territory battles. Zorii Bliss will never be needed in a platoon.
Right.
Every character from Zorii forward will be an unplatoonable character, and it will be always be available for you moving forward.
Yeah. Afra, Reva, and Zorii are now the three that are not. Actually, the only other character that is not in platoons is Kit Fisto. Because you need Kit Fisto in phase 1.
Yeah.
And then you don't need him anytime after that.
The question was, Cat a platoon character? Yes, Cat is needed in platoons.
Yes, Cat is in platoons. Yeah, it is. Bad. We were actually talking about this before we started. Bad Batch is very minimally in platoons, and they are proving to be very good on the light side planets.
Yep.
So that could be an option.
And I think that's also, it's an important thing to point out that, again, like, the Bad Batch characters are needed. They're not needed in quantity. No characters are really needed in quantity outside of like the weird scythe that we needed a bunch of.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's 200 plus characters in the game, they can pull from 3 or 4. Use somebody 3 or 4 times, but they can hit so many of them that it's still causing a lot of people to kind of challenges around filling the pieces. But I think we're done with the days of we need 10 Shaak Ts and 11 Hermit Yodas.
Yeah.
In this case, so.
Hopefully we are, at least.
Yeah.
Until we have to take all these characters to Relic 8 and 9, because that is a scary, scary area. If anyone has ventured in to look at that, it is not nice. Do you want to talk about, because I know you and I were talking about this earlier, a little bit of like the weird TB teams. It kind of relates to this, teams that are doing well.
Yeah.
Because I know you had one.
I had one in let's call this what it is. I was being a big whiny baby. This week. So we got our platoon list, and I reached out to Sarah and I said, I'm not complaining, and I really wasn't.
Yeah.
But I had my 16 teams lined up, and then I think I had to give up 5 or 6 characters, one character from 5 or 6 different teams, and it was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went perfect in combat waves, on ground waves for that. But what I think people are finding is like there's these weird interactions. Like the one that I ran into was on the Hondo mission.
Right.
So I did Dash, IG-11. I didn't have Queel, which is why this popped in. I used BAM.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I'm going to bring in Kara. She was another tank, and I figured she would be helpful. Didn't really even think this through. Well, Kara is a scoundrel.
Right.
So she works under Dash's lead. And actually, one of the really cool thing about Kara is that when she is under a scoundrel lead,
mm-hmm.
she will not taunt. In fact, she goes stealth under certain circumstances, and she actually gets an increase in damage that she does. And more importantly, because this is on Felucia, she stuns the crap out of Empire teams. So I ran through these 2 waves, and they were stun locked the entire time. It was like this phenomenally great mission. And I think a lot of people are starting to find like, oh, I didn't have like, Quill would normally be in that spot, and I've won it with Quill in that spot. But now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to start looking for chances to actually pull Kara onto teams again, especially against Empire squads, because she's got this phenomenal Empire synergy. And now, as scoundrels are the biggest faction in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that middle zone, we're just going to start seeing a bunch of really cool, different little kind of options to make some of these things work.
Yeah. And this is the thing, so what I'm going to say kind of goes in hand with like, if you think you can't make a team, like I would just try it anyway, because so this morning I was playing on the Professor X account. So I was in the Felucia zone, and Professor X is like the account that has min-maxed everything. Yeah. So Felucia, you need Relic 6. And I'm like, well, Professor X has a ton of Relic 5s, but like Relic 6, like aside from his 2 Galactic Legends, like I don't know what's here that I can use. So I went in, I did the light side and the dark side first, and figured I would cobble something with what was left over for mixed, since you can pull from both. And his cat is Relic 5, so I can't use cat. this phase. I went in with Jedi Master Kenobi lead, no cat, Relic 5, so Jedi Master Kenobi lead, JTR, so Rey, R2D2, General Kenobi, and Cassian, because he's got Cassian for profundity. Cassian dies like right away, but you can't go in short. You have to have a fifth, so I just took Cassian. And it won. It went 2 for 2.
Yeah.
And it took a while. It took me close to 15 minutes. It was very slow. There's not a lot of damage being done here. But it worked. So
and we're seeing these types of things all over the place. I mean, especially as we get into like the phase 4 missions where it's like, so I have 7 R8 characters on my team. I put 5 of them together and I won. And and they're just these weird mixes of teams and characters. And I think your point of like some of it is just sit down and look at what you have in front of you and what works. The one that I was again, I was disappointed. I thought it was going to work. Is I've got this Afra and it's so much fun to use, but I had to platoon my IPD and my IG-86 and like all of the damage droids.
Right.
And I was able to build a team and make it work and got through it. And that was fun. But Ramius in our guild was in the same situation. So I got to keep BT, which does a lot of the damage. He lost BT. He had to platoon his. Mm-hmm. So he put some of the Separatist droids on the team. Now, her kit is designed so that it calls out that the Separatist, basically it really points out the Separatist droids aren't a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think some of these kits are designed in a way that they're not a good fit in PvP because they don't want you to make these amazing kind of weird loop-free teams or those cases. But in PvE, I think you get a lot more flexibility from it. And I actually used that team today. And it was a ton of fun and it was a lot of difference. I can see why it wouldn't work in PvP, but so I just think some of this is, again, don't be whiny babies like me and think that you can't do something from that side. But I just start pulling levers, but start writing these down as you're kind of running across them to find out where they sit. So
yeah, and that's like the other thing, right? Like you gotta. I really think you should be keeping track of what you're using and where, because then at least I made a small change this time where I kept losing on the Nexu because I was using my Kylo team for the Acklay.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have anything that can really. The only thing I really have left at that relic level is, like Palpatine and Vader, and like it just wasn't enough to do anything to the Nexu. I couldn't even get past the Geos in Wave 1.
Yeah.
And then I just made the change, especially after getting Grand Inquisitor. I was like, okay, well, I will take my Grand Inquisitor team and use them against the Acklay, which is easy. Yeah. Like mine aren't even modded properly yet. Like they're still not modded properly. The turn order is wrong. They got leftover crap mods on them. And I don't even have to remod. The mission is that easy with them.
Yeah.
And then I move my Kylo to Nexu, and now I can beat the Reek with C. I can beat the Acklay with Grand Inquisitor, and I can beat Nexu with Kylo. And I'm like, we're golden.
Yep.
So.
And I think part of it also is don't overbuild teams.
Right.
It's Lord Vader beats a lot on the dark side. You don't need to stick him with Piet and Darth Vader and Royal Guard and Maul. So if you can break off some of those pieces to slide it, so like you can put Vader with C to do something, and then put a chump in as I was calling it, the Walmart Vader. Where can I get it? Where can I get the smaller version of some of these characters? I think start looking at that. And again, that helps some flexibility with platoons. Is we're looking at preloading tomorrow. I got done today and realized like I didn't use Rey or Jedi Master Luke.
Right.
They went right into tomorrow's platoons, and that's 2 Galactic Legends that are available for someone else tomorrow.
Right.
And it kind of scales and it kind of helps across the board from that side.
And it's good to know that because eventually you're going to be at a point where you're not preloading.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to know what you can sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And that's a good point also that you mentioned with the overbuilding. Like my C team against the Reek is C, Watt, Dooku, Malgus, and Maul.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a team that I would normally put together with C. I'm
Yeah.
like, here you go. You all kind of,
Yeah.
you're strong enough to go in
Yeah.
here and survive long enough that you will work.
Well, it's back like you need a tank. All right, so I need someone high enough relics that can take a couple of punches because it only needs to last a couple of punches. Malgus, you fit the bill.
Yeah.
I've started taking because I've got him at Relic 5. I've been taking Gar Saxon in with Lord Vader because he's a tank and he's going to taunt and he's going to do what he needs to do, and that's live long enough for Vader to do the Vader things and then kind of go about his business and go about his job that way. So,
and the thing too, so with that is, excuse me, sorry, it works. If you can find a team that works with platoons and without platoons, you're laughing. Like that C team for me, having no platoons filled, I can win, and it's usually down to like C and maybe one other person. Usually it's just C at the end. But with platoons filled, only one of them dies. It's usually Watt.
Yeah.
Everyone else is there. So it's a nice puzzle to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back in 2 weeks. I mean that's the crazy part.
It's the only other team that I will say that is working really, really well is JTR lead Ray.
I wanted to try that, and I think I had to platoon JTR today. There's a lot of teams that I want to try because again, I think that they're working.
Yeah.
In those cases, so
and it's also interesting because I think this goes back to what we were saying too about teams working better in certain zones and not.
Yeah.
Like Ray, I have noticed, is working significantly better in the light side path versus taking her in mixed.
Yep.
And working even more better, like under JTR lead. Like it's JTR, Ray, BB-8, C-3PO, R2-D2. And
that team's got to be fast. I mean, it's just got to be fast.
It is. And this is the crazy thing. JTR can die. You just need her leadership. And her leadership stays active.
Yep.
It's not like they've killed. You just need her leadership. And then you're laughing. Like.
So it's funny. On the flip side, I did the Young Lando mission yesterday. And I don't even remember the light side team I put around. I know I've tried it with Ray on the team and it didn't work. But I got through the first wave and I was staring in the face of a pre-buffed Iden trooper team and said, oh yeah, that's why this stinks. Cause I had gotten there before. It was like one of those, and it was just like, it was over before it happened. But to that point, like where people are having success on that mission is not a scoundrel team. It's not a snuggler team. It's Lord Vader, a couple of dark side characters who carry young Lando through the mission.
Right, exactly.
And so it's a lot of it is just figuring out the right characters at the right place and finding ways to kind of mix and match around some of those things.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about in territory battles?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I feel like we have derailed a little bit without fully derailing. We can derail again. That's No Moon. Did we talk about That's No Moon?
So we did this was another thing that you and I kind of talked about a couple of weeks, and it's the start of the new year. Yes. So we all kind of get to sit down and start building new habits, and we've had some conversations around kind of how we wanted to go about planning Galaxy of Heroes for the year. And I think it was two pieces, and one, and I reached out to you about this, and I reached out to Old Man Logan from Old Man's Cantina around this, and it was one of the things I'm like, both of you are in a position, I think, you're down to just needing Jabba and Lord Vader, so you're almost kind of current with where the level of the game is, and I think that for players that are sitting around 9 million GP, and you don't have all the Galactic Legends, like that's kind of the place. And I think there's a lot of players that are in that group. I think where the game sits today is that a lot of those players should be focusing on staying current through this year. And what I mean from that is, for whatever reason, if we look at like the Inquisitors,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they were released last year, and a lot of people just said, "I'm not going to do this.
Right.
I need to focus in other places." And what
Me
that
being one
resulted
of
in,
them.
you being one of the, yeah, and but getting to a certain point and then having to rush through that, uh, and I think that it's amazing when we look at, the 24 plus characters that we had last year, but just about everyone that I know that kind of maybe started the year in the 8 to 8.5 million GP and is now in the 9 million coming out of the side, they closed gaps last year
Mm-hmm.
on those pieces and kept relatively current on where those pieces are. And I think that what my experience is, uh, if you're able to stay current, it actually makes it that much easier to keep up with the game as things are being released. And I am not a financial planner. Please don't take any advice from me as it comes from pieces. But it's this concept of compounding interest, is that if I can keep all of my, if I pay my bills every month and I'm not having to pay off credit card debt, it makes it that much easier for me to stay on top of everything and make progress towards goals further down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for this year, I think a lot of players should truly take a look at, especially for characters that it looks like there's something following along with that.
Right.
Just jump in. The second that it's available, start farming the nodes on it. The second that you can start putting gear on it, start
Mm-hmm.
putting gear on it, because gear is not a problem anymore.
Right.
I think we figured that out over the past couple of months. And I just, this year I would love to see more and more players to stop taking the view of, I'm going to wait, I'm going to hold on because what's coming might be better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you focus on what's in front of you, you're going to have the ultimate kind of what's delivered at the end of the year.
So the thing that I tell people right away to do, as soon as a marquee character, whatever character that's released, as soon as it is farmable, free to play farmable, farm it.
Yep.
You don't need to do refreshes, but you need to be at the very least doing your 5 freebies a day.
Yep.
And obviously, like, this is going to be slightly different based off where you are in the game, because if you have multiple characters that aren't necessarily new, but like even older characters, if you're at a lower GP that you're trying to catch up on, you're farming a lot, right? So in that case, you're going to want to stick with your
Yep.
with your guidelines of where you're going. But if you're in the area where the only stuff you're really chasing is the galactic legends that are outlying for you, you're working on Conquest, and then there's these marquee characters that are coming. And Inquisitors are the perfect example. If you are not slow farming them, you are going to be so far behind of when
Yeah.
you actually need to panic farm them. And I was slow farming them when they were released, and very slow farming. Like, there were days
Yep.
that I wasn't even touching their notes. So it was very, very slow. And once I started focusing on them, because as soon as it was in July that they announced, you and I talked about this. July, they told us that Jabba was coming and that New Territory Battle was coming. And that was when I was like, okay, maybe I will go for Jabba next. Or do I go for Inquisitors? And I went back and forth, and I decided to go for Jabba. And then while I was still slow farming Inquisitors, I will say, and then I pivoted, or no, sorry, I went to Lord Vader, then I pivoted to Jabba, and because of him being needed for territory battles. And then as soon as we found out that we were probably going to need Inquisitors to get Reva, which was over the summer, I think it was
Yep.
September, I completely paused the Jabba farm to go full tilt on Inquisitors, because we had no idea when Grand Inquisitor was coming back.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that is happening now, is people missed the Grand Inquisitor event because they couldn't get the shards fast enough.
Yeah.
They had the gear hoarded. They had the gear ready to gear these characters, but they couldn't get the shards. It's
Yep.
not the gear that slows you down anymore. Kairos and Gear 12 gear being the exception, because that is still a pain. But the other gear, you can hoard it. It's the shards.
Yeah.
If you don't have
Yep.
the shards, you're screwed.
So if we look at last year, and if I was smart, I would have actually pulled this up and looked, but I think we're somewhere between 24 and 28 characters that we released.
Right.
So let's take 4 characters off because they were Conquest characters that if you show up to Conquest, you're going to get.
Let's look it up.
So that's 4. We had the Profundity, we had Jabba, we had the Grand Inquisitor, and we had Aphra. So that's another 4 characters. So 8 characters were the result of a journey guide
We had
that came with it.
the first character was the first marquee of 2022 was Iden.
Yep.
So Iden, second sister. I just pulled it up. Sorry.
Yep.
Iden, second sister, ninth sister. So you're at 3. You had 2 ships.
That's right. Star Fortress and the 2 new ships that came in.
Yeah. Those were galactic chases, but that still counts. So you're at 5.
Yep.
7th sister, 8th brother is so 5 or 6, 7, 8 is Outrider. 5th brother and Sortie makes it 10. Then you had Radis, Raven's Claw, Chrysanthemum. You're already at 13.
Yep.
Skiffguard and Boosh is 15. Hondo 16. The Murder Droids 18. Sauna 19.
So 19 characters released. And that doesn't take in the legendaries, the galactic legends, or the other. So of those 19,
yeah.
So 5 of them were for the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah.
4 of them were for Jabba.
Mm-hmm.
4 of them were for Aphra.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at 13 of 19 characters last year that if you thought they sucked, the end result was a meta shifting character.
Right.
So this is why it's so important to be constantly farming those shards where it comes in line for that. If you just if I get it, the release of the Inquisitors wasn't the best. But if people
100%.
jumped on that early, the end justified the means is what it comes down to. It's the same thing for Jabba, is that Chrysanthemum wasn't the best when he came out. Boosh looked cool. Lando looked all right. Those characters, though, with Jabba, he is functionally breaking the game in certain areas, kind of what he provides. Aphra's a little bit later in the mix. The Outrider is the same thing. Really, what that comes down to then is that if we now shift it back, it's the Resistance and First Order ships, which were good.
Mm-hmm.
Iden, which again was a good character. Sortie, not, who knows where that sits there in the Raven's Claw, which
right.
I'm told is a ship in the game. I'm not sure I've ever used it.
Who else knows?
But so of that 19, really what that comes down to is 5 of those 19 ended up with something that wasn't great at the end of it. We can talk about Iden and the other, I think 2 of those ships from that side, which is why it's so important to just keep pace.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep pace, it's going to result in something good. And we saw this the previous year as well. We saw Galactic Legends released. We saw the Starkiller release. We saw the Executor release. And there were ships and characters that came along with that as long as you're staying current, the end result is going to be there. And we're going to see the same thing this year.
Absolutely. And so out of this entire list in the year that was released, the only characters I do not have at 7-star are Trip Zero and BT1.
Yep.
Which, I mean, those were released in October. Well, the marquee was in October.
Just recently farmable is really what it comes down to. Yep.
And then Sauna, and she is not farmable at all.
Yep.
The rest of them I have at 7-star. And I don't say this as a brag. I just say it to give perspective. In this year, I had 4 Galactic Legends when 2022 started. I picked up C, so I went to 5. I only got 1 Galactic Legend because I hopped all over the place. But I finished my Bounty Hunter team because they weren't fully relicked.
Yep.
I finished my Imperial Trooper team because they weren't fully relicked. I went after Starkiller and got Starkiller. I got Profundity. I added relic levels to a couple of like hodgepodge characters here and there, and then got Grand Inquisitor and then went back to the Jabba farm finally. So I was still doing everything that I wanted to do, but I've also now have all of these characters at 7 stars, so when
Yeah.
I need them, they're already farmed.
Yep. And I think the other mistake that people make, well, all of that, and you're going to be current on the Galactic Legends by March.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other piece, is that all of that work that you put in last year, and you relatively kept current with everything else, because I don't think that a lot of the community is not at the Afro stage because Son is not there, so we can argue whether that's current or not. But the other piece is you're going to be there with everything else, and I think, again, it's back to, that's where that a big piece of the community, I think, is in the same bucket that you are, that they're not as far behind as they were starting 2023 as they did starting 2022. And a lot of people, again, with everything that was released last year, they've got the Grand Inquisitor, they've got Jabba, they probably caught up another Galactic Legend. It's just going to make it that much easier going into the following year. And I think part of what I hear is, I've also heard, and I know you've got some opinions on this, of I'm just going to wait for it to go accelerated because it's faster.
No.
It's a mistake, because you're a year behind.
Yeah.
You're a year back.
And again, this totally is dependent on where you are in the game. If you're in a point of the game where you have characters that you need to be farming to get, say you're going after Jedi Master Luke, or you're going after Rey or whatever, those characters are accelerated. Like, obviously you want to farm those first. But if you're at a point where you kind of have mostly everything, there is zero need to wait for a character to be accelerated. Lion's Den. How long did it take me to farm Hondo? It took me 8 days of doing 3 triple refreshes on Cantina.
Yeah, those Cantina characters are so stinking fast.
He's 8 energy. 8. Yeah. He's in level 1 of. I was like, you guys are putting him here? Are you crazy? Okay. It took me 8 days. I counted because I was like, I can't believe how fast this took.
Yeah.
It paused my signal data, but that's fine.
Yeah. And look, there are different characters where this comes into play. Like, if you're just starting Iden right now,
right,
the impact of waiting 12 months to go after Iden is significantly different than if you are starting Second Sister in 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, those are 2 drastically different conversations from that side. And part of it is understanding, is kind of anticipating where CG is going. It's like the second that we saw the second Inquisitor, alarm bells should have been going off people's head that they're building this. We're going to see a lot more coming out of this. A new faction entered the game. You need to own all of the pieces of this faction, because there's going to be something at the end of the faction chain that works. Sortie, I can get it. If I would understand where you sit on it from that side, but we're going to see a Galactic Legend this year. We're going to probably see another legendary. We're going to see an end of year legendary event, and we're probably going to see another ship meta ship.
Yeah.
Those should be your targets to keep current with that through the year.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I said this to you because you and I had this conversation where it was a little bit more applicable to me when these gear changes happen, these last gear changes. Part of the reason why I've gotten so quickly geared on the Jabba requirements is because of these gear changes.
Yeah.
Like, yes, the Gear 12 gear is still very annoying to come by, and getting them from Gear 12 to Gear 13 is the stopping point for me currently. But like everything else, I'm like, already I'm like, I can't believe how many carbs and guns and stuff. Like, I don't need, they're just there. It's the non-accelerated gear, the non-refreshed gear, update gear is the stuff that's still slowing me down. But everything else, I'm like, this is insane.
Yes.
I was arguably closer on gear for Lord Vader than I was for Jabba.
Yep.
And it has been absolutely wild with just the changes. So And again, it comes down to shards. If you don't have the shards, all these gear changes are going to mean nothing to you because you
Yeah.
can't do anything.
And I get Kairos are still a challenge, and I'm not suggesting this for Kairos, but everyone should be going through their roster right now and hitting green pluses that are not Kairos.
Right.
It's just it's get it up there, get it pushed up as characters are released, take them as high as you can until again the Kairos are a gate, and I get that, and I'm not going to suggest to you that because that's going to be a problem getting those cases, but you know, guns, cuffs, and carbonis, just apply them, just get them out of the way because it's gonna make it that much easier to cross the next gate when that gate is opened up for that character.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's very safe to say that they're going to do something for Gear 12 gear this year.
My question is it gear 12 or are they going to do something to address 7, 8, and 9 relics? Because
I mean,
it's rough.
I think
It's pretty rough.
I think you need both,
Yeah.
but I think addressing Gear 12 fits in with their alignment more of wanting to get you to relics faster.
You know, that's a fair point because if I was getting double the left hand side gear 12 stuff, I could get the Zin Biddles
Right.
to get to relic 7 probably a lot faster.
Right.
So yeah, that's a fair point.
So we'll see, but yeah, it is just farm your shards.
Yeah. Keep moving forward.
Yep, absolutely. And planning out like what you're gonna do. For me, like when I did C, I was like, it makes sense for me to go finish my troopers now because I have 3 of them at relics. Like that made sense. It made sense for me to finish my bounty hunters because I had gotten executor the year before. Like there were all these things that just naturally made sense to fill out, and if you can plan it for that, you're getting really good teams and meta characters at the same time.
The other one, and again, this may be a little bit for folks a little bit earlier as we talk about farming shards. The Galactic War Store is great for characters.
Yeah.
But not every character shows up all the time. So be constantly looking for Dengar, be constantly looking for Logray.
Yeah.
Because they are not always there.
Oh, man.
And it feels like we need a billion D Logray right now in platoons. So
yeah, it's true. So huge factor.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's be negative.
Yes.
What is your bantha in the room this week?
I don't. Not enough has happened in the game for. Oh, I've got one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Since when is IG-88 not a droid?
Oh gosh, this is actually a very good point. Like super good point.
So I chased the IG-88 Datacron, and I couldn't get it, and I burned a ton of resources trying to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually, I believe listening to Zareth on Gambit, and he made a comment at that point, and I'm like, you don't say no. He's tagged as a scoundrel, so he's the scoundrel path. So it drove me nuts. There was a positive that came out of it. That I taught myself a new trick. So I have a mental gap of thinking about things beyond where I want them to go. So as an example, I spent way too many resources trying to get the scoundrel can't revive Datacron so I can take out Jabba.
Right.
And I would get it, and I had a ton of reroll mats for that one, and I burned all of them, and I didn't get it. And then one day the light bulb went off in my head, complaining about IG-88, that because I couldn't roll it, because and you can't go backwards and roll out of that droid into a scoundrel. I realized no. If I just take a Datacron all the way up to a level 9 scoundrel, whether I want it or not. Now, when I reroll at level 6, I'll only get scoundrels,
Yeah.
not scoundrels, droids, and inquisitors. I literally got it on the second reroll after I got a mob enforcer scoundrel Datacron.
Oh, I did
So
that
I,
for
I
that
taught myself
reason.
a trick. Yeah. Yeah. So
Because I was
I'm not bright.
I was going to do that. I was going to reroll for it because I wanted the same Datacron. And I was
Yeah.
like, and I didn't have enough to get to level 9 of
Yeah.
the Mark II, whatever things. And I was just like, and I was sitting at level 8. So I was like, I could roll level 6, reroll level
Yeah.
6. But then it's going to pick through everything.
Yep.
So I was like, I'll just wait. I think I actually spent like crystals or something to buy more Mark IIs because I was like, I just want to do this. And I did that exact thing. I took it up to level 9. I don't even know who. Oh, I think I think it's IG88 actually.
Oh.
Sorry. But I'm like, I don't care. I just want to reroll level 6 now and get the no revive. So
Well, and I was actually happy to get the mob enforcer one because I will never use it on mob enforcer. So now that I will just never accidentally like assign that someplace
yeah.
else. You know, mob enforcer now equals Jedi Master Kenobi. So, but yeah, these dual faction pieces, and especially when they split off into it doesn't make sense. I think that's silly, and I think they need a better job of that. So
I'm wondering if that's like a case of like no one even realizing that he was tagged as both and they were
yeah,
bringing out Datacrons for both. Like that's when you need like to make sure
yeah,
none of these overlap to kind of make it
yeah,
a little bit
yeah.
easier, I guess, or clearer. I don't know.
So now I know what I'm doing for the next conquest. I am farming a bunch of scoundrel ones so that I can maybe get IG88.
Yeah. Yeah. That will help. Um I don't know if I have anything like crazy negative, but I will say they they need to implement some more time management into this game
Yes.
because and this was something that I also brought up in my post to Meathead. I said like this week right now for territory battles isn't too bad because this is like when dark side territory battle would be.
Yeah.
And there's no conquest. We've got Grand Arena going on, so there is that, but it's not nothing's too crazy. When territory battles and conquest are happening at the same time, it is too time intensive.
Yeah.
And I say that
Yep.
as someone like who really enjoys both of those game modes. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I am on my phone all day that week
Yeah. Agreed.
because it's just, especially between two accounts, even more so. But I'm like, even just doing one, I was like, you got to do your battles and territory battles and your platoons, and then make sure you have the right deployments going everywhere. And that's more of an officer problem. I'm like, but then you go into conquest and you're like, oh, like, man, you've got to do your refreshes and push through conquest
Yep.
and make sure you're doing your feats. And it is a lot. And they need to figure out a way to make it, even if it's something like, let us pre-assign our platoons. Let us
Yeah.
anything like that where we could have the battles be open right away. And
And that's a phenomenal point that, they talk about a 24-hour phase, but we really get about 11
yeah,
because people need to sleep,
right.
and you lose, 3 hours waiting on people to do platoons and all of those other pieces. So, um, you know, and again, I'm stealing something. I saw the note that you put out to Meathead as part of the feedback. Um, I don't mind endless ranks.
Right.
I have a problem with endless ranks when the characters have 400,000 hit points and you're just hitting the same button over and over and over again just to get through a big beefy boy for no apparent reason. It's again, I know there's probably a point in time on some of these pieces, but I agree with you. I think I need a little bit of time back.
Yeah. So if they could, and I don't know how they do that. I don't know if that is letting us pre-assign platoons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If that is giving us a sim option in Conquest once you hit red crate.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I'd love that if that was an option that was there.
Yeah, like I don't know how you go about doing it, but
Yep.
anything really, you're still getting the same level of, quote unquote engagement, but it makes it a bit more manageable.
Yeah. You're still going to get my crystals.
Right.
Just let me sim it.
Right, exactly. So, oh man. Okay. Um Pigo, what have you loved? For I love you, I know. So that we don't just sound
So
like whiners.
yeah, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna use two again. Um, the first is I had just unlocked Afro when we spoke a month ago.
Yes.
Um, I love that team.
Yeah.
It is just I was so wrong wanting Carsan on the team in a tank because tanks can't make things explode into fiery balls of destruction.
Who
It's yeah.
who do you run as, like, what's your full Afro team?
So in territory battles, I'm running BT and Trip,
Mhm.
IG88, and then I'll throw in IG86 or IPD. Kind of, it will be another droid is what I use in that case. Um, in 5v5, it will be Vader in that fifth spot because he just generates so much stinking potent or so much siphon coming out of that when BT gets a turn, he just nukes the world
Right.
from that standpoint. So HK is a little disappointing on the squad. IG88 is just comes in and just lays waste to everything in its path. So it's just a ton of fun. Um, yeah, that is the first. The second, uh, this new Treya Omni, it is the most fundamental change to the game, I think, in the last 2 years.
Yeah, you were telling me you used it. You used it today.
So I used it today for the first time, and I know at ODB, a lot of people like remodding her and getting like special damage up around like north of 10,000, 11,000. I have her at like 9,500 special offense. I took down a Vader Maul Royal Guard team, no problem whatsoever.
That's nuts.
Um, it is, if you don't have it, put it on Treya right now. And if you are putting Lord Vader on defense, stop. Like that's the piece that I'm the most excited about is that Lord Vader now comes off of defense.
Right.
It's just you just can't put him there anymore. It's that unless they change this Omnicron, you can't. He doesn't work on defense anymore.
Right.
She just takes care of the problem, which again I think is great because I'm not a seven Galactic Legends on defense and prey type thing. So I like it because I think it's just going to move Lord Vader off into offense, and I think that's just going to make life easier on the Grand Arena side. So
Right. I really want that Omicron,
yeah,
and I really want to gear them. There's so many squirrels that I'm just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I want that. So
So it's awesome. Again, I that Omicron is going to have a probably I think is going to become the biggest, the most impactful Omicron that has been released in the game.
that's nuts.
I think it's going to have that level of a shift.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to get it.
It was easy. It was just stupid easy.
I need to get it.
Yeah.
Which means I'm gonna have to gear them because they're gear 12. Yikes.
How about you?
Okay, so I have two. So I did get
Yep.
Grand Inquisitor over the Christmas break because I realized we
Yep.
didn't. Did we do? Have we done a show since
We
Christmas?
did. We haven't we
didn't.
missed the one between Christmas and New Year's. I think we decided to not Star Wars that night.
Yeah.
I was just tired.
Which I mean, so was I. But
You have a real reason to be tired. I'm just tired because I'm old.
but But I did get Grand Inquisitor over that event. And honestly, I was saying this today. I feel like I said a lot of things today, but uh the more I play with that team, the more I like them.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, this is actually and it really does pay off to learn their kit. Like
Yeah.
it really does. And I don't say that to be like, please don't button mash, because like I will button mash the hell out of teams if I have to.
Yeah.
But learning that kit is so much fun. And oh man, using them, I got to use them during Conquest, since we actually got the event during
Yeah.
Conquest, and I was like, it just made it so easy to go through the sectors. And like I was like, oh, we can 3-star this node, and I
Yeah.
can get some purge done, or I can get some Inquisitor kills done in this phase, or I can get Empire kills in this. Like, it was just great all around. So they have been a ton of fun. And again, this was a team that when they were released, I was like, I'm not going for this distraction. This is a
Yeah.
distraction, CG. Were like basically my exact words. And then Grand Inquisitor dropped, and I was like, I don't need this guy. And here we are, 6 months later.
It's amazing that a team with 3 cleanses and 2 AE ability blocks was considered bad.
Yeah.
Like to your point, like they throw so many debuffs out there that it's even hard to understand everything that's there, but they're all present. They're all there.
Right.
And yeah, I've been pushing people. I know Eighth Brother is really cool right now because of the Reva mission.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sleep on Second Sister, and understand that she brings a couple things to the table that are helpful in other places,
Mm-hmm.
like dealing with dual Magna Guards on certain or combat missions. But yeah, they're a ton of fun.
So much fun. Like, just so much fun. So very happy that I got that. Java is almost done. Like,
That's crazy.
I think I said, I can't remember if I said beginning of January originally or mid January was when I was picturing it to be done, and then I detoured for Inquisitors, which did pause my job because I stopped all farming. I was like, I need to put all the gear into converting gear essentially for relic materials was what I needed to do. I only have the 3 marquees left to gear. I only have Chrysanthemum, Boosh, and Leia.
Yeah.
Leia and Chrysanthemum are gear 12. Chrysanthemum needs 1 piece, and he'll be relicked.
Yeah.
And it really is the Cairo and the gear 12 gear that is slowing me down right now, because I'm like, ugh, if you were accelerated gear, this would be fantastic. But I'm thinking I will probably be starting like the ticket farm, so to speak, in a week.
Oh, jeez.
And I fully intend to. So this is where I'm torn, actually. I'm curious what you think I should do. This is a great question. I think I'm not biased at all. So normally what I do, and I've told you this, I think, during my Galactic Legend farms for tickets, I farm the gear that they need, right?
Yeah.
So I see if it's a Dark Side Galactic Legend, I'm like, okay, I'm going to farm all of this gear because it's on the Dark Side nodes. Anything that is Light Side exclusive is what I will buy from the stores when I see it. And then that way, by the time I'm done the ticket farm and I've unlocked the character, they can go straight to gear 13. I think I've only fallen short once, and it was only by a couple of pieces of gear that I just bought, and it was fine. And then I can relic them, and everybody is good to go right away. Start farming the ultimates and the ultimate mats, and we're happy. I want to buy these $5 ticket packs when they show up because it's such a good deal. It's like $5 and you get tickets and you get energy, which gives you more tickets, theoretically, depending how you're using it, but it would. If I do that, I'm not going to have the gear when I unlock Jabba.
So,
because the thing right now that's stopping me, I have the relic materials. I don't have the gear. That's the thing that's preventing me from getting to the tickets right now to start the event, because these 3 marquees are sitting at gear 12, but as soon as they hit gear 13, they're going to be relic 5.
So I am going to suggest that you don't stress about the gear getting Jabba to 13,
Right.
because I think that opens the door for getting back to shards on other characters.
Right.
Like, because the faster you can get out of tickets with Jabba,
Right.
out of the ticket phase with Jabba, you can now get back to diverting that energy into other important things.
Okay. Right. So I could go
That makes
back
sense.
into farming.
Yeah.
Like theoretically BT1 would be paused
Yeah.
because he's light side.
Yes. Yeah.
Man. See, and like that's the thing. I'm like, do I come out of it with like a gear 8 Jabba? And I don't know where I will end up stopping.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the Kairos that slow me down.
But again, with the rate at which gear is coming into the game,
Yeah. It's not gonna be a lot of gear
it's not going to be and there are Cairo nodes that are still
mm-hmm.
that are dark side. So you still, because if you're going to get tickets and energy,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to burn that energy that's there as well. All you're doing is just accelerating how quickly you get more tickets in place.
Totally.
So, and I think the way that I've seen it is it really doesn't, all it really does is cut reduces the amount of energy that you're spending to do it. But you're still having to spend some on that daily basis. So you're going to get gear from that side. But yeah, I would get through the ticket phase as quickly as possible, because I think it just opens up more flexibility as to what you do with your energy at that point.
Because those ticket packs, I can't remember the exact number of tickets that are in them, but you can buy them 5 times, maximum of 5 times.
Yeah.
So $25. And you can go from starting the farm to unlock to, I think it's halfway through your alt by buying it 5 times.
Oh, geez. So the only problem with that is you can't start farming your alt until you're in relics.
Right. Exactly.
So you're gonna have a middle pause in there as you finish up the gear from that side.
Yes. So do I even buy? I mean, see, this is the thing. I just don't know.
So I hear you say all the time that the shards are the most important piece.
They are.
Which, and again, when you have shards, it opens up more doors for other pieces from that side. And I just I think I would want to get to the shard phase as quickly as possible.
Yeah. All right. Well, that tells me it. So
yep.
I'm going to say roughly a week, hopefully. I need like 200 shock Kairos. This is the problem.
But, okay. So I don't think Jabba's got an insane amount of Kairos as part of his kit either.
I hope not. I haven't even looked at his gear list.
Yeah. If you're pulling out 200 a week and you're still able to farm some of them during the ticket farm, what are you delaying it a week?
Right.
And at that point, are you in a relic Jabba in the same time frame? You're just changing kind of when you unlock versus when you get them to relics.
Right. So do I have them sit on my roster at gear 10?
So here's why you want to do it. What if Conquest opens up and we get more Hunt Cartel?
Yeah. That is a great point. Because even at gear 10 without his alt, I would probably be able to make him work.
Yep. Yeah.
Especially once you got the discs and stuff.
Yep.
That is a good point.
Because he does bring a lot of things. What if there's a thermal detonator one? And again, he's just got pieces of his kit that helps churn those things out, and again, you'd have all of his abilities, you'd have all, have all the zetas and everything up there as well. Yeah, I think getting to a 7-star Java is probably more helpful than waiting to have, a Relic 5 Java.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fair. I just want to clarify because Mickey's saying in chat,
Yep.
do we farm shards before gear? I think it depends on what you're doing project wise. So, for example, right now, the only shards I'm farming are BT1 and Trip Zero because those are the only two that are farmable that I don't have.
Yep.
And I'm just doing the 5 freebies. And then all of my other energy is farming gear that I'm missing for these Java requirements. When I was farming the Java marquees, I would do 2 refreshes a day on those characters. So I don't know. What does that work out to be? 15 sims? And then all of my other energy farms were gear. And I'm spending the 3 refreshes a day on regular energy as well. So I'm
Yep.
doing the 50 and 150 on crystal, whatchamacallit, refreshes for energy. Plus refreshing the
Yeah, and actually, Jack Daniels in chat makes a great point that the smuggler mission that Java opens up, you can do it with under gear. You
right.
don't need his ultimate to do it from that side. So
Mm.
even kind of sliding in some of just that one extra 60 mod recalibrations, in my opinion, is worth it to accelerate from that standpoint as well. So
Okay.
I think there's some value there.
Okay. So we'll see. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely don't sleep on slow farm. Like I call it slow farming, just doing the five
Yep.
five refreshes or five,
Yeah.
not 5 refreshes, 5 sims a day. Which is what I did with Sortie. I just 7-starred Sortie like I don't know, maybe a month ago,
Yep.
and I just was doing 5 freebies on her a day. And some days I skipped her because I
Yeah.
needed to farm something else that was a higher priority.
But now you have her. Now it becomes a conversation. Just can you get if you need her, can you get her geared fast enough?
Yeah, exactly.
So
So, um, okay. I feel like we did the Discord corner while we
we did.
chatted.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, do we want to look at the meta report for fleets? Because we've had a profundity run.
We have. I don't know if we've looked at it recently.
Because it has changed. So the last time we looked at it, profundity was at 25% and executor was at 70.
So, and it is now at 49% profundity,
Mm-hmm.
46% executor, and 2% executrix.
That's got to be
Which my guess that's no, it's probably Scythe.
right.
Playing around. Yeah.
Testing.
Yep.
Well, that is quite the leap. I kind of like that it is so split, I will say.
Yeah, so looking at the rank 1 squads, 49% of the standard profundity, 44% of the standard executrix with the Cad Bane lead.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's the triple attacker, then Hux, interestingly, at 1%, and then it's Scythe at 1%.
Oh wow. Already on there. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's dang. That's fun. I wonder if I mean, I'm assuming we're going to get another capital ship this year,
I would think so.
right? That seems to be what they've been wanting to do.
But I think we are going to get a meta shifting legendary ship.
Oh, I was going to make a joke about who it should be, but maybe I won't.
But I think we all know who that ship may be, but I think that an event that looks maybe a little bit like the Millennium Falcon that transforms an existing capital ship into an awesome ship might be an option there.
So the
And I'll
comeuppance
leave.
for Holdo's ship,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
That's exactly what it is. It's comeuppance. Yeah, yeah. That's it.
That's totally what it is. Um, yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening. All right. Um, do we want to head to Uncle Owen's moisture farm and talk about what we are currently farming in game?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Even though I feel like we did. Actually, I'm
Well,
curious what
I,
you're farming.
I'm launching, and we talked about this a little bit. So I wrapped up my project for last year.
Mm-hmm.
I now have every Zeta available in the game applied.
That's nuts.
I have them all. The last one was Cody. So it just happened to be the one that was at. So I started a new project this year that I am calling the New 52,
Mm-hmm.
which was a comic book thing that they did a few years back with DC Comics. But I have roughly about 63 characters that are sitting at R5. And my goal is to get 52 of those characters to R7 this year.
So one a
So
week.
averaging one a week. With every new character that comes into the game, I want to take them to R7 as well.
Oh man.
I I'm starting to think that this is not going to work. I think that
Because they're gonna add new characters, or for another reason.
I think it's going to become too difficult to keep up with uh, the Zinbiddles
Mm,
uh, as characters that need to gear come out. Like this is the first time in a very long time. Like I have zero Gear 12 salvage available because I just keep churning it over as quickly as possible. So we'll see how this works. The first two characters I did this year to start the year, I did Rolo and Iden.
mm-hmm.
We're kind of week 1 and week 2. I'm calling these bonus babies. I do have some of those gross R6 characters. So I'm trying to get those to R7 just because I don't like them, but we'll see where that goes. But I'm trying to I want to bring the rest of the roster up to R7 just because unfortunately I'm afraid that while we say that R5 is the new R3 as we've been saying, I'm getting concerned that R7 is the new R5.
Yeah, that
So
post is being shifted already.
yes, yeah,
It is. I mean, if you're looking at it, I hate to use territory battle as the. I don't hate it, but as the post.
yeah,
If you're looking at it from there, and if you're looking at it as a halfway point,
yep,
phase 3 is the halfway point, right? And
yeah,
that's Relic 7.
yeah.
So
That and again, the way that I look at it is if I can get everyone to 7, I can selectively go to 8 and 9 as needed. It's just
right.
it's that much. It's the same thing we talk about shards. It's the same thing we talk about that is that if you can just get to this level, incrementally taking those next steps is the place to go. So we'll see how it shakes out. I built myself a cool little spreadsheet for tracking all of this, and we'll see where it lands this year. So
I'm curious. We should make like a tracker that we can watch along with.
yeah, yeah,
I'm curious how it goes. I feel like this is a cool
yeah.
project.
Um, and I did ask on Discord, and I think everyone agreed that an average
Mm-hmm.
of one a week is acceptable. Trying to get one a week done, it might be a little complex just with the spiky nature of how some of the resources come in. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I get a lot of my relic materials from Conquest.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah. Um, I'm just farming the gear that I need for those marquee characters.
Java, 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 Java.
It's all Java. It's farming their gear, buying their. I need like everywhere. I'm just looking for it everywhere, and the faster I can throw it on them, the better.
Yeah,
It is disgusting. I've bought those relic, those $500 500 crystal relic material
yeah,
lottery bundles a few times for the carbonites and the bronzium wiring because needed those.
yep.
But it's all gear.
Yeah, I was Zinbiddles and cheese danishes
Yep.
for that stretch as well.
I,
So
I was using my get 3 currency to buy Zimbiddles and Danishes. Um, but I ended up needing more Cairo.
um, it's so there's just it's two at a time, and it's not that it's two more than it had, but it's just when you need 20, that's a lot of churn that you need through that as well. So, but Kairos are a thing, man. They're,
It's rough. It's a rough life,
yeah,
but it's fine. Um, yeah. Do you have anything else? I feel like
no,
for no real
uh,
news, we nailed it.
we gave it a good 2 hours on a week that there wasn't a whole lot of updates. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think we did. I think we did
a
well.
week that they announced a marquee character. Uh, yeah. So I guess I think we're gonna have way more to talk about. Not that we normally don't, but in a couple of weeks we'll be mid conquest, mid
Yes,
new conquest.
yeah. New character, we'll see. Luckily, not new Datacron, so we'll have that, but a lot to unpack next episode. So
Yeah, and whatever these changes are that came to territory battle.
yeah, as long as it doesn't involve any changes in the Jawas, I think we're good.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Um. All right. Well, I guess that's it then for this week. Oh, okay. Real quick before we leave, since Lucius is asking,
Yeah.
conquest tune predictions.
Oof. This is so hard because they've been all right. Here we go. Timing works. It matches with what happened last year.
Huh.
It's a character the community wants. Crosshair.
Crosshair.
Crosshairs.
I was wondering that.
Crosshair is our character.
I was wondering if
Yeah.
that would be it because, yeah, it it's not. I don't think it's going to be a ship. They haven't done back to back
No.
ships,
Nope.
and I don't see them starting that.
And we got Django at this point last year while Book of Boba was in session.
Yes, Book of or Boba was just wrapping.
Yeah.
Um, we were in Conquest, and Boba was happening right around now.
Yeah.
Because then what they did was they released Second Sister at the end of January. This is when their
Yep.
cadence was obviously or their scheduling was different.
Yeah.
Because we got Second Sister, and then the Conquest right after Second Sister was her ship.
Yeah.
But I don't see the comeuppance being a ship. I think the comeuppance will be a galactic chase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't see that going to Conquest. I don't see it being a Kylo lifter.
I don't either.
I feel like it's too close to the last lifter, and for whatever reason, it's in my brain that they should not like lifters shouldn't be close together, which makes zero sense.
Yep.
I just that's how my brain is wanting to view it. I don't know who else you would get from Bad Batch that would be as wanted as Crosshair. Maybe their ship, but again, like I don't know if that would go into Conquest.
I just don't see them doing back to back. If they do back to back ships in Conquest, and the fact that we are getting a character that seems like a vehicle to get us another ship in the game, there's something coming for ships. Like
Right.
to me, that's telegraphing something that's going on that side. And I
That's a good point.
I would love it if it was another ship.
Right. Oh man.
I mean,
Makes it real nice and easy.
6 months without having to put omnis on a conquest character, that would be phenomenal.
Or gear, really.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll I don't.
Ooh, do you think it would be something for Return of the Jedi anniversary? Because that's
Yeah,
in April,
and that would line up to the release around that time frame.
right? Because we
Um,
start Conquest at the end of this month. We'll get one in. We would be unlocking, yeah, in April.
well, and I think again the characters for Return of the Jedi so um, the speed biker trooper, and I know that's the scout trooper. Excuse me, man, it's late. Um, I think it's possible. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's got to be a character with a name though,
it
because
has to
that
be.
all the conquest characters
Are named.
are named.
Yeah. Even
Yeah,
the ships are, I mean,
Second Sisters wasn't, but
yeah.
um, yeah, I I don't know. I don't know. I think we've every time that we have tried to predict who was coming, we could not have been farther from what was next.
Yeah. Ah, man. I just don't know what they're doing this year.
Yeah,
I don't know where they're going.
and the conquest characters, none of them seem to be tied to anything.
No.
So that's the other piece of this is they're just cool things that they want to get into the game to make that work one way or another. So
Man, I have no idea.
yeah,
No idea. I'm super intrigued though. We'll know next week. They have to do an update
yep,
on Wednesday, so
absolutely.
we will know. Um okay. I think that's actually it now.
Yeah,
All right. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us this week on the stream or listening. Um, that ought to do it. Pico. Thank you. And until next time, Chewy, we are home. All right.